So most people I have talked to so far this week have told me that the Mars Battleground Grandmaster is the hardest one this season, with the updated Lake of Shadows Grandmaster coming in at a close second. So I decided to test this build combo in the hardest Grandmaster there is, and I have to say it performed to perfection for a few different reasons. And I think if you all give this strategy a shot, it will make a big difference for you and your fire team in any Grandmaster that you're choosing to run. We finished this Mars Grandmaster in about 25 minutes, so I'm not sure how that compares to other clears as far as the time goes, but I will say we had a ton of fun because the entire Grandmaster just felt a bit too easy, and that's when we were performing this build combo, and I'm going to explain why it felt much easier running this setup. We actually decided to go with 2 strand builds, and then your third one is going to be a light base subclass, and I'm going to explain why this pairs so well together. So this can either be a Titan or a Hunter, and building into the suspend debuff as much as possible. Both the Titan and the Hunter both have amazing builds for this, and you have all seen my videos or other videos on these strand builds. My goal was to have 2 people building into that infinite suspend, and then the third person to bring the damage needed to take out those suspended enemies quickly and easily. So the 2 other players would just focus on suspending, and I ended up tripling one of my clanmates in kills, and I think I actually doubled the other one if I remember correctly. But that's because I was bringing the light base subclass that was bringing a ton of damage and ad clear. So then I had to decide what could bring the most damage the quickest, and this role can be filled by a bunch of different options. A Controverse Holds Void Warlock build comes to mind as well. But I wanted the best damage output that I could possibly get on a single champion, but also bringing along great ad clear with the other red bar enemies that may be suspended. And the Jolt debuff from the Arc subclasses does just that. So of course I chose the Arc Titan, and I want you guys to picture this in your head right now. You have a Strand Titan who pops his barricade and suspends an entire group along with a champion or 2. This could also be a Hunter who throws 2 shackle grenades and suspends everything. They have now crowd controlled everything, and it allows your third player, which was me, the Arc Titan, to pick out the suspended champion and just hit him directly with a pulse grenade. Pulse grenades do about the same damage as the pre-nerfed storm grenades, but the drawback to using them was the grenade wouldn't track an enemy, so you never got the full damage if something moved while the pulse grenade was sitting on them for about 7 seconds. But guess what? This problem is now fixed with 1 strand player on your team. Also, everything you're watching is without a arc surge, so technically we could be hitting 25% harder here in future seasons. So we have hit that champion now with our pulse grenade and caused the Jolt debuff to start ticking and shocking enemies that are suspended around it. And they are all suspended as well, so these are guaranteed to hit. But since we have guaranteed our pulse grenade to stay on a suspended target, the damage ramp up from our aspect Touch of Thunder can always hit its max damage output. On top of that, we can get the max amount of Ionic Traces back because our pulse grenade is always on that champion that is suspended. And then the cherry on top is that Heart of Inmost Light that gives us a 35% damage buff to our grenades that also stacks with Touch of Thunder's extra damage. We'll always be doing its extra damage because we have guaranteed our grenade to always be directly on the high health target. So we're getting that max damage output, and we're getting the max Ionic Traces back to always have a pulse grenade available. So the point I'm trying to make is the synergy between 1 or 2 strand subclass users and 1 light base subclass user that is bringing a strong grenade and damage build is just so good, and I think it is the best combo you can be running in a Grandmaster now. Even if your light user is a well Warlock, just make sure they're built for grenades with Starfire, or maybe even the Solar Grenade with Touch of Flame, and you guys will make any Grandmaster look super easy with this setup. If you want to see the full text version of this build, the links will be down below for you, and you can find it all over on Mobalytics, a great source for Destiny 2 builds, and where you can find all of my current Destiny 2 builds as well. So my 2 other Titans on my team were running my Strand Titan build that I posted about 3 weeks ago, so I'll link that down in the description for you all. That way, if you are running Strand Titan, you can copy that. But as far as the build I was running, I've updated my Arc Titan with all the new mods, and as you can see, we can throw grenade after grenade with this setup. So make sure to pay attention to everything if you want to get it down correctly. You do want to use the new thruster ability over the other barricades as your class ability because it just plays into the overall build much better and smoother. And then we are going to take the Seismic Strike melee over the Thunderclap melee. I normally do choose Thunderclap, but with Lightfall updates, Blinding now can actually stun unstoppable champions. And as you can see, I reset the stun a couple times in there when I'm doing that shoulder charge. So I do like Seismic Strike now because it blinds targets, and while you're amplified, the blind radius is increased, which is really nice. And then obviously you're going to take Pulse Grenade. This is that Pulse Grenade that does a lot of damage thanks to 2 different damage buffs we're playing into it. The first damage buff is Touch of Thunder. Pulse Grenades, they create ionic traces periodically as it damages targets and increases in damage over time. And since we already went over, the enemies can't move, so we always get this damage bonus and we always get the max ionic traces back. And then our second aspect is Knockout. Not really much going on there except defeating targets with melee attacks starts health regeneration. For your 4 fragments, we're going to take Spark of Resistance. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. Also, we're going to take Spark of Shock. Your arc grenades jolt targets. This just adds overall damage to our pulse grenades and the add clear effect to all the red bar enemies around the champions. You're also going to want to take Spark of Magnitude. Your lingering arc grenades, which is our pulse grenades, have extended duration. This adds an extra 2 seconds on them for us. And then also Spark of Discharge. Arc weapon final blows have a chance to create ionic traces. The exotic weapon I choose with this is Cold Heart. And mainly because as you just hold down the trigger on an enemy, you can get ionic traces back just from damaging enemies. This isn't there to be an add clear monster or to do a lot of damage to enemies. It's strictly just to top off our abilities if we need it. And then our exotic armor piece is Heart of Inmost Light. You guys all know how this works. We get the empowerment for 5 seconds every time we activate any ability, and we can get up to an empowerment ×2. This is mainly for our pulse grenades, and on the empowerment ×1, you get a 20% damage bonus in PvE, and then in the empowerment ×2, you get a 35% damage bonus to those grenades. And that stacks with the extra damage from Touch of Thunder. For the mods on the build, you're going to take Ashes to Assets on the helmet. We're going to get a ton of super back from those grenade kills. Powerful Friends. Collecting an orb of power causes nearby allies to increase their current armor charge. And you want your 2 fire team members to run this as well, so you guys can just feed armor charges to each other. It's a really nice loop. And then you're going to take a Siphon mod for whatever weapon you're going to get the most kills with. I was using the Heavy Void LMG, and so I took a Void Siphon for double kills from the Void Heavy. On your gauntlets, you're going to take Bolstering Detonation. Grants cost ability energy when you cause damage with a grenade, just to feed that thruster so we can always proc Heart of Inmost Light with the thruster ability. You're also going to take Firepower. Your grenade final blows create orbs of power. And then Grenade Kickstart. When your grenade energy is fully expended, you gain grenade energy. On your chest piece, it's all just damage reduction based on whatever activity you're doing. On the boots, Innervation, reduce grenade cooldown each time you pick up an orb of power. Stacks on stacks, picking up an orb of power grants you 1 additional stack of armor charge. And Recuperation, replenishes health each time you pick up an orb of power. And then on our class item, we're going to take Double Bomber just to feed into our grenade when we use that class ability. And Reaper, after using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an orb of power, just to create more orbs of power on the field. As you saw, you're going to lead your team in kills, you're probably going to lead your team in damage, and you're going to lead your team in orbs created with this overall build. I hope you guys enjoy this one and give it a shot, and team up with a strand user or 2 strand users, and you will have a blast if you do it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video, and have a great rest of your day.